Hello, everybody. Welcome to the afternoon session. My name is Zhao. I'd like to give a short introduction to Professor Sridhar Seshadri. And he's the Ellen J. and Joyce D. Baltz Endowed Professor and Area Chair in the Information System, Operations Management, and Supply Chain Management and Analytics area in the Gaius College of Business at the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign. So Professor Seshadri had distinguished and long records of research, industry impact, and teaching. So without further ado, let me give the floor to Sridhar.
Thank you, Zhao. Thank you, everybody. I know you're coming back from lunch, so I should make a lunch joke, right? So, so when Zhao said, "Can you give a talk?" I didn't ask him what the theme of the conference was. So I said, "Here is the talk. What do you think?" He said, "Fine." So it may strike you, the topic I chose is in the middle of a lot of great talks in the morning from Janet and George in the panel, which was very interesting, and yesterday's talks, and the ones to follow. My talk is slightly different, and maybe you can think it is the meat in between the sandwich, or you can think it's the lettuce between the sandwich. It's up to you. But this is something I've been thinking about. So let me just share. And so thank you for asking me to do this. This is my pet topic right now. Okay. So it's probably, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. And you can hear me, right? But my voice is okay.
Yes, very good.
Thank you. So this work is about the adjustments that supply chains made in response to the pandemic. And I'll give you a little history of it as we go along, but I've been thinking about it, but not collecting data. So what I call a survey is mostly secondary data and talks with people. And at the end of today's talk, I'll put a poll, and hopefully you will give me information which I can use to improve my understanding. This is right now in collaboration with my colleague, Mohammed, who is at GEES with me. He's an expert on logistics. And with Mayank, who is our graduate student, but who has helped enormously in organizing this information. Okay. So let me give you very quickly my idea here, that I'll introduce you to how I started doing this work, and then some broad idea. Now you will notice this is completely exploratory, what I'm trying to do, and I'll share with you some industry analysis. And I have to tell you, and I know people there on the audience have more industry experience than I have. And so some of the things I may say are a little provocative in the sense I might emphasize things. So I apologize in advance, okay? And then I will summarize with what I see were some of the problems many industries face, and some of the solutions they have proposed, and whether this is actually, going to lead to more resilient supply chain. So that's the future work that I'll share with you, okay? So the introduction. I don't think we need to be reminded that the pandemic has disrupted our lives. And I just came off a call. Somebody was not answering the phone from India, and finally he called after 4 days. I was getting worried. He said, "I'm in the hospital. I'm admitted." So cases are going up here and there, and you can see wave after wave after wave, and another wave is coming in some of the parts. So it doesn't seem to be going away unless we vaccinate the entire world. And we don't seem to be able to do that, but that's what is happening. Well, the consequences of the pandemic have also been losses of lives, significant losses, right? So this has not been a normal disruption in any sense of the word. So it's interesting to understand, how did we respond to this? One other point which we make when I present some of this work is to tell you that it's a global problem. It's not America, it's not Asia, it's not Africa. The problem maybe staggered, a wave here follows a wave there, but to decent amount of synchronicity, it has affected the globe. And some people really think it is the globalization which has created this spread. Imagine 200 years ago when travel was not so, why 200, even 40 years ago when we used to take a plane, took 3 days to come from India to US probably, right? If you go back another 80 years, it will take you 3 months on a ship. So what has happened is with almost, the same kind of frequency we have been seeing these waves. And kudos, let me give it away. So when we started looking at it, okay, I'll just show you and by the way, I'll be telling stories. Like George told his stories about his consulting experience. I'll tell you stories about what I see, okay? So initially, we took a hit, the economy shut down, the unemployment rates went up. That's when I started looking at this and trying to ask myself, if small businesses got affected, right, could we do something for them? So we knew the economy would come back. So that was the time we could have planned to gainfully reconnect our small businesses to the OEMs and others in the US, right? So we did start a project, but that grand idea didn't pan out. The economy came back, right? It came back roaring. And then when it came back roaring, today, even in the panel, I saw some people asking, what are you doing about your employees? Where are you getting people, right? So full cycle from a dip, it's come back, and then you're seeing workers are changing jobs. I myself have seen requests for people saying, can I do 2 full-time jobs, right? They are raking in high salaries, and the inflation seems to keep going on. And supply chain, which was supposed to be the savior, has now become the culprit. And you talk to everybody, they, oh, it's a supply chain problem. Supply chain has become a bad word now from a good word, right? But this is what has happened. So I think there are a couple of grand ideas that I will propose. Okay, maybe this is the right time to do them, and that's what I will do. Okay, so this has been the story. Has the problems gone away? A few days ago, I got this from Statistics Canada, which is a Canadian, very interesting organization who's willing to share some of the surveys they did with regard to the challenges. Okay, and they asked the participants that have the change in supply chain challenges experienced over the first quarter of 2022. What do you think? Have they worsened, or are they getting better? 71.9% of the respondents say the challenges have not gone away. I'll try to isolate to you where the challenges are and what are some of the things we can think. But before that, before I even say that, I'll be presenting data for you from a few industries, selected industries, just to tell you that why just a small sliver of 2.8%, even across the border, not the US, is saying that things have not improved for the better, right? So what is the root cause of this problem? Well, I just want to give away, George is my advisor, and he always tells me I don't give away my big idea. Okay, here's my big idea before I forget, right? So we are working on three things. We are actually working on healthcare delivery. We are looking at the service industry. But today we are talking about the supply chain, okay? One question really as researchers and practice people and leaders of supply chains is, do we need a different way of modeling and managing risks to handle this kind of disruptions? Or just, we've been studying disruptions for some time, right? The question is, this word resilience is getting tossed around a bit, and I would like to call it repurposability. Resilience is too broad. What I have found in some of the analysis in the news I searched is the ability of firms to repurpose, use the same channels, the same factories, etc., to come up with a new supply chain which uses the same resource. So the entire supply chain gets repurposed, right? And that is not deliberately done. Maybe it is time to think of how to do that deliberately and how much, what should we do? This conference is about digital transformation, and I did hear the previous panel. There is a case to be made of not being 100% reliable either on the physical or the electronic platforms, and that's one of the ideas which has helped a few people we have seen. I mean, I don't want to scare you, but say the internet or the entire connectivity goes down for 3 months, okay? Now, just imagine a scenario like that. Why is it not possible? It's quite possible. So what I'm trying to say is we should not be searching where there is light, but we should be searching where there is darkness, and we should be shedding light there. So one of the big ideas is that design of repurposability, be aware that digital transformation can lock you into patterns which will not be very resilient, right? And finally, we are going back into conversations on strategic inventories. And so strategic inventories can mean many things, including talent. And so I think one of the other big ideas which comes out of some of the work I've been thinking, I've not done anything, except I've been talking to some people on this, okay? So this is roughly where I'm going to go, but let me just walk you through how my thinking has evolved, okay? It's a pie in the sky thinking, okay? Please bear with me. So what's my approach, okay? So obviously we have been looking at a number of industries. Some industries are missing here, and you can all immediately see, but you can see why we chose these industries, right? These are the ones leading some of the cost increases that we're seeing, you know, auto, retail, pharma. And even those who did not believe there were semiconductors know there is a semiconductor chip problem. And then logistics is been in the conversation, and food and beverage. So the important one missing here is the construction side of it. And there are, you know, the chemical side of it. There is the electronics good side of it, which I left out, but I just kept these as drivers of cost increase, right? What we did was we took the top 10 firms and we took a basic set of metrics, productivity metrics, supply chain metrics, profitability metrics. So ROA and sales per employee, roughly productivity, gross margins, is price power. We are diving a little deeper into it as we go. And inventory turns is our supply chain and, you know, demand supply matching. I'll show you graphs of these firms in the top firms in these industries, and try to isolate some of the problems and solutions they proposed. Then the whole thing started with what we did is, okay, the methodology I'm using is not a model. We just read We picked 25 firms and read the news reports. We started there, even though logically I put it at the bottom. We did first a lot of reading, and then based on that, try to get a set of problems and solutions firms proposed. Okay, I'll tell you a bit of ongoing work we are doing after this, and love your participation in this. So initial analysis, when we started reading the 10Ks and the 10Qs and the reports, we saw that, there were some problems that were everybody mentions, and there were some solutions that everybody mentions, right? So problems, not surprisingly, are supply issues, delays in transportation, shortage of workers, wage pressure, and some face demand reductions, some face demand shift from one product to another, and some faced demand increase, right? So the volume changes and the mix changes happen, right? The solutions were all over the place, right? So some expanded because the demands went up. Many firms took this opportunity to rationalize, specialize, create focus, drop SKUs, drop variety. They tried to integrate their supply chain, which is a question, which is the big question going forward in the next 2-3 years. Is that the direction to go? They also started improving collaborations with their vendors. The repurposing is a brilliant idea. I mean, people have taken supply chains which were making another product, and then they saw demand and they shifted it to a different product. So the ability to, we have heard about flexibility in a factory, but flexibility of the whole supply chain is something worth thinking about. Some firms resorted to price increase. It's been there in every industry. What is interesting is in some places it has been less, in some places it's more. I will show you a couple of areas where it has been very drastic, okay? And I have a reason for it, and I'll try to share with you that. We also saw, it's good news for this conference participants, that, and I did hear your panel again, right? Yes, during the pandemic, if we ask how our infrastructure investments help and how traceability of shipments and products and problems and delays helped people on the fly change things, I think the question was, did we really design our IT and technology solutions to be able to do that? Or we were fortunate that they were able to do that. So was it a great accident which allowed them to do it or not? That's one of the problems we frequently see. Then two other things we do see. One is global footprint, not in sourcing, but in markets has helped, okay? So when demand was down here, demand was up there, or you can go from US to China and, see the demand is sort of smoothing it out. That has helped companies quite a bit, okay? Finally, again, good news for this conference. Anybody with a digital presence, either in B2B or B2C, or any which way, or direct sales, like Tesla, for example, right, has tremendously helped. So you can see that these are the problems, these are the solutions. I'm just commenting. So let me move on. Okay. The 6 industries. So we said, okay, fine, but is there variation by industry? Is there variation by firm? Who are the winners? Who are the losers? Okay. So I know, again, this may sound like a CNN news, okay, but you will see the analysis looks like this. Okay. So I got 4 graphs. I'm willing to share much of this with you, so don't read too much into it, but I'll show you how I read things. Okay. So if you notice, you got gross margins, return on assets, inventory turns, and sales per employee. Okay. When you look at this, we also have one firm, this is automotive industry, doing tremendously well. Okay. And that's Tesla. So you do a deep dive and ask, how did they do this? And the answer seems to be they did it due to sale of regulatory credits. They have huge amount of regulatory credits, and that kept their margins up. Okay, it's not just the supply chain operation. So then we said, okay, let me take this. And the other thing when I see is when I see something like this, like the BMW or the Tesla showing sales per employee is going up, it doesn't mean they became suddenly productive. It's quite likely they are having a labor shortage in the short run. Okay, so when you see labor productivity going up, please, my lenses of looking at it is that it could be productivity, not productivity, but shortage. Okay, so let me drop Tesla for you. I dropped Tesla, and you can see now very clearly an effect. Ford and Mercedes-Benz, I read this as ability to increase prices. Gross margins is, and we have other data now we are working on pricing, direct pricing analysis, but you can see that their ability to increase prices is probably helped them, right? And in terms of return on assets too, you can see the two top performers, right? The question is how much of it is contributed by actual volumes and how much of it is contributed by increase in price. That I leave it to your imagination, but you can see a connection between graph 1 and graph 2. What you also see is an accumulation of inventories at some of the big companies. And this accumulation probably says that this is a shortage of chips, that cars are sort of sitting on the side and there's a chip shortage. Okay. Finally, as I said, BMW has a labor problem. Okay, definitely productivity cannot shoot up as much as this. Okay, so once we look at this industry in depth and try to look at who are winning and who are losing, we just pick a few firms and go deep dive on them. Okay, so we do the big picture and then we go deep dive. So let me do a deep dive in this industry. So when you look at firm by firm, right? The problems, transportation chip shortage, fine. They had losses because during when this, they're not able to sell, right? And you can see this increase in Tesla, which I told you regulatory, it's because of regulatory sales, they're making more money. What is the main thing they did, which is what we as supply chain researchers are interested? Streamline, eliminate features, adjust the volume based on popularity, right? Reduce variety, increase some inventories of critical parts, right? And integration. And so I call this whole thing as a way of streamlining, redesigning, and kudos to the supply chains who have been able to do this. Now, question I'm asking is this a way in which we should be evaluating resilience going forward? Okay. Right now, there are going to be chip shortages and there are going to be price hikes. I do not see a quick solution. So I'll take you to the semiconductor industry and I'll go a little deeper into that, and we can see the effect of one industry on another. Okay. But this is interesting to me, what adjustment this industry did. Let me move on. Now, this has been in the news because it's driving up costs. And you can see that the food and beverage industry has actually done better. In fact, they did take a knock. You see these dips, they correspond to the COVID waves which are happening. Okay, but you can see right now that the big meat producers are getting better margins, higher prices, right? They're also able to exploit higher asset turnover, right? Ignore these two companies for a minute. They seem to have stocked up on inventory and not able to clear it. Okay. And I'll give you a reason for it. Finally, look at this industry. Every one of them is reporting, I mean, is showing higher sales per employee. Probably it's not because people are consuming more food. It is probably because they're not getting enough labor. So this is the worker pressure that you are seeing. Okay. So then we decided to go deeper into pick a couple of companies. So you can see this. You can see labor shortages have hurt, shift in demand, material shortage have hurt them, right? Profits reduced, but now things are coming back. So how did they do it? Just like the auto industry, and this is very fascinating. They improved efficiency, they increased price, they rationalized product, they changed some packaging, right? They reduced the SKU count. Amazing, right? It's again streamlining efficiency across the supply chain, which seems to be the response. Okay. Is the situation back to normal? I will show you that there are logistic challenges ahead, which is something June, July, August we are going to see, right? That again, the industry looks normal, but again, I'll show you that if you look a little deeper, like in the semiconductor, you will see problems are not going away. Okay, so this is another theme that keeps coming up. You think, oh, I'm back. I'm not back. Okay, let me take another industry. Retail took hits. See, you can see each dip corresponds to COVID spikes, right? But right now, everybody's back because everybody's back shopping. It's 100%. They're back to their margins, right? And what is a little surprising to me is the accumulation of inventories at some of the big retailers. Why this is happening will come back. There seems to be a little bit of overreaction out there. Okay, is it overreaction or they have the wrong stuff? We don't know. Okay. The fascinating thing I learned from this is Albertson. Albertson is an example that the retail combination of online and offline and in-person shopping with the right assortment blow out. They've done so well, right? Again, like the other industries where we are having shortage of workforce, like in the food industry, where we don't pay much. The retail industry is notorious for not paying much, right? And you can see the sales per employee going up. That doesn't mean sales per employee going up. I think the worker availability has come down, except one person. And I don't know. And I want to see if somebody from Amazon is here. I will apologize. Amazon has also hired a huge number of people, and that is showing the dip out there. So they are making a play, assuming the online market is going to continue surging. Okay. So going into detail, I'll pick up a couple of them. Initially, they lost in-store demand. People filed for bankruptcy. I don't know, you remember, right? They were closing shops here, there, everywhere, right? Then, boom, because online sales happened. So what is the story in the retail sector? Two stories. One, rationalization. So assortment started getting slimmer, which again is a way of how to design our supply chain. Again, I think that's a takeaway I have. The other thing was the online channel and how it helped, right? And what is also interesting is that Albertson, and somebody has to do a much deeper study of their group if somebody is available to do it, is how did that growth outpaced everybody? The combination of what they have done is amazing. So that resilience story is worth studying, right? So there may be a bullwhip effect coming because they saw this demand going up and the inventory started piling up, and maybe there is some excess inventory. But I will take you to the logistics side of this business. So retail did well. And the two stories which strike out to me once again is rationalization, okay, and online. Now, coming back, I won't spend too long on the pharma. We have some New Jersey, a lot of pharma companies. I won't take too long about it, but it's an amazing place that this industry, there were big winners. And what is kudos to them is they kept their prices under control, right? You can see the gross margins didn't shoot up as much, okay? You can see sales went up, right? And people like Abbott, Pfizer, right? And you got Merck and Pfizer, the inventory turns going up, okay? And they are still having problems. Probably this blip in sales per employee you're seeing is because they become more productive, but they're also shortage of workers. So this industry, the story seems to be that they benefited due to increase in focus. You know, why do I say that, right? You look at they had problems with workers, they had problems with shortages, but the revenue growth of these companies, right, who you all recognize, are the ones which got involved in this manufacture and distribution, which they did amazingly well. So when we talk about resilience, and if you look at these supply chains, the only thing you can tell them is, hey, in 2019, if I could have planned it, then I would have had the vaccines in 2020, okay? So one thing is that supply chains have the tremendous ability to repurpose, refocus, okay? That's the design we should be thinking about. They were able to increase production. They were able to increase workforce capacity. They were able to repurpose. Pfizer actually did all this at two supply chains in parallel operating, right? To increase reliability. And J&J, some of Janet talked about 3D in this morning, they increased flexibility, okay, using that. The slight bad news is patent filings are down. So basically the pharma industry spent a lot of money addressing the pandemic, did a phenomenal job. I personally know how they reduce cost of testing, which used to go up to $140, $150. You can now get a test end result for $7 to $12 in the state of Illinois, which is a 10-time decrease. You could walk into CVS and get a shot for free. It's a miracle, right? So the only cost is they went from exploration to exploitation, and maybe they'll go back to exploration, right? That's what's going to happen. So this industry has to be praised for everything it did, right? And how did they do it? Through focus. Okay. Let's talk. I know I won't have much time, so I'm going to spend 5 minutes on this, the semiconductor industry. Okay. Now, semiconductor industry is confusing, okay, because you got the fabs, you got the fabless companies, right, and then you have the equipment manufacturers. They're all thrown in out there, okay. But so what we do see is there are some huge winners, right? And you can see AMD, for example, has done phenomenally well. They are seeing pressures in workers, but this industry, which is being blamed for everything, has also seen some tightening up. You know, they have increased prices out there. You can see that. So the variations can be explained if you take it apart. Plus, a third thing happening here is that technology is changing. So George knows much better than me on this because he has worked so much on the yield side. And that shift in technology took a few people off guard. But let's go a little deeper into the industry. The summary seems to be price went up, some did very well, right? So yes, price went up. They have lack of labor, which is what I showed you. They had some issues with offshore productions, right? But they all faced equipment bottleneck because of the new technology equipment, and also this very expensive industry, the basic fab, right? And there has been shortage of chips, but how come there is increase in, you know, how did they manage this, right? They increased prices a little bit, but really, if you look at the adjustments made, seems to be a story, two stories in this industry. One story is that mix. AMD took the right bet and betted on, you can see the focus leads to success. Once again, it seems to be you know which area to go in, and they made a bet on the demand and they made the right bet. They did very well, right? The other thing is that equipment is a bottleneck. But there's another phenomenon when you go deeper into the supply chain. I call it crowding out. So when a shared capacity becomes a constraint, then the lower margin products or the people who did not make contract commitments get crowded out of that industry, okay? Which may be the story for the automobile industry, okay? So what are they doing? Two things. I think TSMC is scrambling, and what I find, these are the big guys, right? TSMC, Intel, Samsung, right? They're trying to add facilities closer to their customers, and this is something, a big idea I want to share with you as we go on, right? Number one. Number two, even Samsung, right, and Intel. So they seem to be making close, more focused. And the other question is, do we need a fab which caters to multiple industry, which puts all your eggs in one basket, and that leads to this kind of crowding out when you share a resource, or do you want to dedicate things, okay? That's a question we have. So the adjustments and solutions which may be coming might be more specialization, more focus, more integrated stuff, okay? So I will now bring you to the mystery called the logistics industry. This industry is an amazing mystery to me. Okay? On the top, you see volumes. I got data from LA, Long Beach, of course, and Port of Vancouver. Vancouver, you know, is one of the biggest shipping operations in the world, right? If you've been there, volumes are flat. Freight tariffs going up. Okay? So you can see this difference is something that supply chain modelers and planners need to think. Okay, again, and the last graph on the right shows you the on-time percentage, which has dropped to almost 10%, and the delays in days has climbed up. Okay, so what's happening out there? And in fact, this is where there is a further danger coming in the next couple of months. I can almost see it coming. Okay. So this is an example of a shared resource over heterogeneous industries. Okay. Those seem to be the riskiest when it comes to delays and price increases from what I am seeing from this data. Okay. Yeah, this industry had problems, trucking shortages, people went bankrupt, log jams, delays. What did they do? You can see again what people are doing. They're shifting the modes of transportation from container, they're going back to ships. They're insourcing logistics services, Walmart, right? Amazon has already invested in its own containers, right? And then they're changing the shipping patterns, right? They're giving incentives. But as you can notice, this problem is going to continue. Okay? So just when we thought this problem is going away, due to the pileup in Shanghai, and the ships are two issues, not getting ships out, and the ships which are getting out are not fully loaded, there is the shipment back is creating a problem, right? So now, once they clear it, and this is why I'm predicting, I'm looking into the future. Once they clear that backlog in China, imagine what's going to happen. All those goods are going to come. And once again, we're going to see, oh, there's a problem near Jersey, and there's a problem in LA, because I can see it coming 3 months from now. And we won't react to it. No, we will react to it 3 months from now, which is another, I stop. I'm not going to vent anymore, right? I'm just looking at the crystal ball gazing, but I know my crystal ball is good. 3 months out, 6 months out, I can see what's happening. Okay. So here's my here's my summary, right? You might have seen the pattern already. So let me put it together. 2 minutes. Okay. The black problems are common. You know, okay? Some are winners, some are losers. Fine. The people think supply chains are challenged. Yeah, they can handle it. Okay. Most disruptions. Companies, I think this is the main lesson to me, that in this situation, they managed to streamline operations. And then when it had gone a little bloated and desperate, but this was a problem they tried to solve because adversity led to invention. The two problems which will continue to persist are, take any resource where heterogeneous companies use a shared resource. Okay, so my example is, say I am transporting potatoes and Zhao is transporting iPads, and and there's a shortage, then Zhao gets to ship his iPad, but I don't get to ship my potatoes. Okay, this is called crowding out. One of the ways of building resilience is not to rely on common carriers to do this kind of work. And this is something we need to, this is where the price risk and the demand, the supply risk have intensified. I can do your regression of panel or whatever you want, but that's one thing. The other risk which I see is that the same thing happens when it to workers. Now, workers, again, are a common resource. They can go from this industry to that industry to that industry. So when there's a worker shortage, you think they will go to peeling potatoes? No, they will go work for Zhao and make iPads. So one of the problems with these common shared resources is an intensification of risk and price. Okay. What are the solutions? I try to break the solutions into two parts. One, trying to drive some efficiencies in, which also help them meet surges in demand, right? Pricing, of course. Streamlining the supply chain, I see it everywhere. And we should be able to do that more deliberately, right? Improving efficiencies, yes, that we do. What is amazing is the ability of these chains to repurpose, redesign, and change, right? Product lines, supply routes, packaging, materials, they did it all together, not one piece at a time. This time, they got their act together, right? What helped them, as you saw the panelists before me, being able to trace, track, predict, and respond. Now, was it accident, or should we be looking at it more differently? And I think one other message which is coming out loud and clear to me is the fact that many of them are trying to localize. Okay, I feel, I mean, my one big idea is design globally, produce locally. Okay, I have a feeling that might be the solution emerging, but do we have the will to put that into place without losing a lot of money? Okay, it is happening now, and companies who are able to do this have succeeded quite well. Okay, so I'll stop with this slide. Okay, that here are some questions for the future. One is very clear. As I said, if the pharma industry had recognized in 2019 there was a problem, we could have avoided a lot of problems, right? Number two, right, that is advanced warning systems. So can we do that? I think that we could. I keep asking, could we have done better, right? Now, the second question I see is, how can I repurpose supply chains? Can I design the entire supply chain so that there is some flexibility of everything, not just one piece of it? Right? The third one is, I think, yes, you're all business people, but I see costs being passed on to segments which can't afford it. Okay. Now, if I say this, I'll become a bad man. But one of the things is, can we have policies which prevent us passing on prices to some people and not lose money? Right. Number four. This is going to be a bigger challenge, should be localized production and globalize design, or maybe find a way I can use workforce and resources, at least workforce. So there's this whole idea that a person sitting in Bombay can drive a taxi in New York. Can I do that 10 years from now? Yes. So this idea of locally doing this, we do it in McDonald's. We take orders from many outlets at one place. And finally, I'm just giving you one warning on the digital side. Yes, I think there is also a danger in extending that, because what it does is it allows you to have very long supply chains. Okay, and then you have this problem, interoperability. I kept hearing this word, right? Are we creating more complexity than we need? This is a question for you. So here are my questions. I'm going to share all these slides with you. With your kind permission, I will just share a survey which you can fill in, hopefully on the chat afterwards, right? I'm going to paste it and give it to you. And I'm going to stop the share, okay? And I know I've run too much into this, okay? I hope I told you an interesting story. Okay? So there it is, Zhao. I tried to finish in time. I apologize. I'm a little late.
No, that's fine. I took a few minutes in the beginning. So any questions for Sridhar? We can allow a few questions. Sridhar, I think I have a question actually. I'm feeling the pain of price increase, to be honest. I can see my everyday life has been affected by the price surge, not only oil, but also the food, right, and the other things. Now, I also sense the global supply chain is under transition. I'm happy you gave an answer to the price increase, right? And I totally agree with you. And I think I also like your predictions after all these backlogs were cleared, and we may face another problem, right? So I'm very happy you made the prediction. And also the data analysis of the industry, semiconductor, food, automobiles, and healthcare, right, and pharmaceuticals, and that is fantastic. I think that's what people like to see, right, especially in the classrooms, right? So, any questions for Sridhar from the audience? Okay, how about we do this? I will jump in, and anybody has a question, and you can write in the chat box, and we'll answer them together after the session.
Okay.
All right.
I have a form. Can I just remind the participants, I have pasted a form, Google form. I really request those who have a few minutes of your time to fill it in from your industry, which I will collect. And if you want a copy of the report, just email me, or we'll make the slides available, and my email address can be found there. So you want to contact me afterwards also. I'll be happy to do that, yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Oh.